There is a moment, usually around 3 a.m., when the body decides it is done waiting. You've been swallowing your rage for 6 years, and suddenly your jaw locks so tight you cannot chew. You've been carrying a betrayal you never named, and one morning your lower back gives out lifting a toothbrush. The mind is a master of excuse, but the body is a merciless biographer. It keeps a ledger written in muscle fiber and nerve endings, and tonight, it's demanding you read every entry out loud. Carl Jung called this the somatic unconscious, the point where the psyche doesn't fade away, but simply changes address, relocating from the attic of the mind into the basement of the flesh. And here's the terrifying part. If you keep ignoring it, this isn't a phase, it becomes architecture. It calcifies into a permanent structure that you will carry until the day you die. Welcome, I am Shehzad Hussein, and this is a deep examination of what happens when the psyche stops whispering and starts breaking things. Today we're not talking about stress management or mindfulness. We're talking about the body as the shadow's last resort, a physical rebellion against every lie you've ever told yourself. I want you to imagine something. Imagine your subconscious as a prisoner locked in solitary confinement. It has no voice box. It has no pen. The only communication channel it has is the electrical wiring of your nervous system. So it starts tapping on the pipes. Tap, tap, tap. A migraine when you refuse to leave a toxic marriage. A panic attack that hits every Sunday evening before the job you despise. A knot between your shoulder blades that feels like someone buried a fist there. These aren't malfunctions of the machine. These are Morse code from the exiled self. And yet, what do most of us do? We give the prisoner a sedative. We medicate the tapping. We numb the wires. And for a time, the prison goes quiet, and we think we've won. But Jung understood something chilling. The unconscious never simply gives up. It escalates. It moves from a whisper to a scream. It moves from a tap on the pipes to a total physical blackout. Because it knows that a body in crisis is the one message you cannot consciously scroll past. This is a map of that rebellion. Phase 1. The biology of the buried self. Before we decode the language of specific organs and muscles, we have to understand the transmission system. How does an invisible, immaterial thought, a memory, a shame, a forbidden desire become a visible, material pathology in the tissue? Mainstream science remains largely confused by this. It treats the body like a car, and the doctor like a mechanic. You've got a squeaky belt, we tighten it. You've got inflammation, we suppress the immune response. But this Cartesian model mind here, body there, separate machines, completely fails to account for why a person who is deeply, existentially unfulfilled keeps developing mysterious autoimmune issues, while the so-called healthy person who gets a divorce and starts speaking their truth suddenly sees their chronic fatigue vanish. Jung's view, which later gained massive empirical support through the field of psychoneuroimmunology, was that the psyche and the soma are not two separate entities communicating across a gap. They are a single, unified system using a shared chemical language. The subconscious isn't just a repository of dreams. It's a regulatory intelligence connected directly to your vagus nerve, your gut biome, your adrenal axis. When the conscious ego refuses a truth, let's say, the truth that you are in the wrong career, that you're living someone else's life, that you never grieved your mother, the unconscious is left holding a live grenade. It has to offload that explosive emotional energy somewhere. It can't throw it into the void. So it throws it into the smooth muscle tissue. It throws it into the digestive tract. It throws it into the constriction of blood vessels. That's not poetry. That's biology. Let me give you a vivid example. Consider the act of swallowing a grievance. Imagine you have a boss who humiliates you regularly. Every day at 9 a.m. you feel a flush of anger and shame. You want to scream. You want to quit. But your survival instinct, your rent, your family forces you to press your lips together and suppress the impulse. You literally swallow the words. Now, neurologically, a command is sent: contract the throat. Over months and years, this don't speak command doesn't dissolve. It becomes procedural memory, encoded in the muscles of the larynx and the cervical spine. Soon, you don't just feel silenced emotionally. You develop a chronic lump in your throat. Globus sensation, they call it. The speech impulse has been inverted into a strangulation impulse. The body has become a metaphor. The throat that wouldn't cry out has now physically closed. Now contrast this with the modern medical model. Go to a doctor with a lump in your throat, and if the scans show no tumor, you're given a diagnosis of anxiety or acid reflux and sent home with a prescription. The deeper question, what truth are you choking on, is never asked. But in the Jungian laboratory, the symptom is not the disease. The symptom is the question. Suppressing the symptom with drugs without deciphering its message is like putting duct tape over a fire alarm while the fire spreads through the walls. So we come to the first law of somatic psychology. The intensity of the physical symptom is proportional to the depth of the psychological repression. A minor irritation you're aware of might cause a twitch. A massive existential betrayal you've convinced yourself never happened can collapse an entire vertebral column over a decade. Phase 2. The dialects of the organs. Once we accept that the body is speaking, the next terrifying question arises. What exactly is it saying? And where does the shadow typically choose to hide? Jung observed that the shadow, the repository of everything we refuse to be, doesn't scatter randomly through the body. It seeks specific anatomical real estate based on function. It's a psychological squatter, and it moves into the organs and muscle groups that symbolically correspond to the repressed conflict. Let's map this out. The jaw. This is the most common fortress of the shadow in the modern civilized human. Biologically, the jaw exists to bite, to chew, to consume, to defend. Psychologically, it's the gatekeeper of speech and aggression. When a person has something vital to say but believes it's not their place to say it, the impulse to vocalize and the impulse to suppress collide right at the temporomandibular joint. The result is bruxism, grinding, clenching. I've seen people crack their own molars in their sleep. What are they chewing on? The unsaid words. The unexpressed no. The rage they can't direct at the father, the spouse, the institution. The jaw becomes a fist, and it punches inward every night. The shoulders. You'll often hear someone say, "I feel like I'm carrying the weight of the world." This is not a figure of speech. The shoulder girdle is biomechanically designed to bear loads. When the psyche creates an internal representation of overwhelming responsibility, it activates the trapezius and levator scapulae muscles as if a literal boulder is sitting on them. I've treated clients, and if you've ever had deep tissue work, you know this, who have shoulders so elevated they're almost touching their ears, permanently locked in a neurological shrug. This isn't a posture problem. It's a "I was parentified at age 10" problem. It's a "I carry the emotional survival of everyone in my family" problem. The body is frozen in the act of bracing for a blow that began in childhood and never stopped. The gut. Jung would have loved the modern research on the enteric nervous system. We now know the gut has more neurons than your spinal cord. It's a second brain. But more interestingly, it's the feeling brain. The gut doesn't deal in logic. It deals in pattern recognition and visceral reaction. Where does the shadow go when we refuse to stomach a reality? When something feels gut-wrenching or we lack the belly fire to act? It hits the intestinal wall. The psychological inability to digest a traumatic event or a toxic environment translates into a physical inability to digest. This is somatization in its rawest form. The conflict, "this environment is poison, but I must stay," creates a physiological standoff. The gut tightens, permeability changes, inflammation cascades. The brain keeps sending the signal, "Get out." The body obeys by preparing to expel toxins, but the ego overrides it. "Stay. You need the money. Don't rock the boat." The result is a chronic civil war in the abdomen, and you're told it's just irritable bowel syndrome. Here's an observation from years of deep analysis. The part of the body that hurts is often the very part that, if set free, would commit the crime of authenticity. The jaw that clenches would speak the forbidden truth. The shoulders that ache would throw down the burden and walk away. The pelvis that's chronically locked would reclaim sexual autonomy. The legs that feel heavy and dead would run from the trap. This is the shadow's language. It's threatening to act. And the ego, terrified of the consequences, locks down the muscle to prevent that action. The armor is not just against external trauma, it's internal handcuffs. Which brings us to one of the most important and disturbing expansions of Jungian thought. Phase 3. The architecture of suffering. We need to talk about Wilhelm Reich. Most people today know the name, if at all, as a footnote. But Reich was a brilliant, albeit controversial, student of Freud, who took these observations to their logical, terrifying conclusion. Reich noticed that his patients didn't just have a psychological resistance to talking about their trauma. They had a physical resistance. They literally couldn't breathe deeply. Their chests were rigid. Their pelvises were frozen. He coined the term character armor. The idea is that every single instance of emotional suppression doesn't just dissipate. It leaves a microscopic deposit of chronic muscular tension. Over the lifespan, these deposits don't just accumulate. They fuse. They form a literal, tangible suit of armor made of your own contracted flesh. It's a rigid matrix of spastic muscles, shallow breathing, and deadened tissue. And the function of this armor is twofold: to keep the terrifying external world out, and to keep the terrifying internal truth in. Think about what that means. As a child, you cried, and you were shamed for it. So you learned to stop the sob by clenching your diaphragm. As a teenager, you wanted to hit back at the bully, but you feared expulsion, so you locked your shoulders and arm muscles to hold the punch. As an adult, you wanted to express your sexuality freely, but religious shame choked you, so you numbed your pelvis. Layer upon layer, year after year, you build a full-body straitjacket. And initially it works. It dulls the pain. It keeps you functional. But here is the grim cost. You can't selectively numb. The same armor that blocks the pain of grief also blocks the capacity for spontaneous joy. The same muscular shell that contains your rage also prevents you from taking a full, satisfying breath of air. You become like a knight in armor who has rusted over. You can no longer feel the sunlight on your skin. You're safe from the wound, but you're also safely entombed. This is what Jung meant by the unlived life. It's not just a metaphor for missed opportunities. It's a physical reality. The energy that should flow through your body into creative acts, into dance, into laughter, into assertion, is instead diverted into maintaining a permanent state of emergency lockdown. This is an exhausting, metabolic drain, and it explains why chronically repressed people are always tired. You're not just sleeping poorly. You're using every ounce of your vital battery power to hold a prison door shut from the inside. Let me give you a specific picture. A man grows up in a household where vulnerability is punished. Boys don't cry. His sensitive nature, his Jungian feeling function is driven into the shadow. He grows up and becomes a successful, rigid, dominant figure. But by age 50, he has chronic hypertension, a stiff neck, and cannot emotionally connect to his children. If you touch his back, it feels like a wooden board. The sensitivity he buried didn't vanish. It's alive down there in the dark, pounding on the walls of his blood vessels, screaming through the tension in his neck. His body has become a monument to his rejected self. This is the calcification. This is the permanent agony of the unlived life. Now, we have mapped the problem. The shadow speaks. The body listens. The ego ignores. The armor forms. And the pain becomes chronic. So we must now ask the terrifying question that forces us to move from diagnosis to treatment. Phase 4. The dialogues you don't want to have. How do you break the silence without breaking yourself? This is where we separate intellectual masturbation from genuine integration. You can watch 100 videos on Jung. You can understand intellectually that your migraine is probably an unexpressed emotion. And it will do nothing. The body doesn't speak English. The body doesn't respond to the logical mind. The ego, however, loves this intellectual phase, because as long as you're thinking about the pain, you're not feeling it. Jung was adamant about this. The intellect is a great liar. To reach the somatic unconscious, you must do what Jung called active imagination, but specifically directed into the physical. You must descend from the head into the belly. And I warn you, it's a descent the ego will fight with every weapon it has, because the ego knows that the moment you truly listen to the body, the game is up. You can no longer pretend the toxic job is fine. You can no longer stay married on paper. So let's talk about technique, not as a set of generic steps, but as a way of being. Let's say you have a recurring chronic sensation, a stabbing pain beneath your left shoulder blade. It's been there for years. Doctors found nothing. What do you do? The standard approach is to ask, how do I fix this? The Jungian approach is to ask the symptom a question directly. In a state of deep stillness, you take your awareness off of the narrative, stop telling the story of how overworked you are, and you drop your consciousness into the center of that stabbing sensation. And then you ask, not verbally, but with a feeling of genuine curiosity, what are you doing to me? Are you protecting me from something? What would happen if you weren't here? And then you shut up and wait. This is where it gets eerie. Often what arises is not a sentence, but an image, a memory, or a sudden, inexplicable wave of emotion. I once witnessed a man with a chronic stone in his stomach do this, and after 20 minutes of silence, he suddenly saw a clear image of himself at age 7, hiding his father's drinking from his mother. His gut had been holding that secret, that toxic, undigested secret, for 40 years. The stone wasn't an illness. It was a prison for a truth he thought would destroy his family. When he realized that his body was still functioning as a security vault for a 7-year-old's trauma, the pain didn't instantly vanish, but it began to move. It became plastic again, not fixed. It had been heard, and a heard symptom has already begun its transformation. Another technique involves personification. You treat the symptom as an autonomous entity with its own personality and agenda. This aligns with Jung's view of complexes. They behave like independent subpersonalities within the psyche. So you might say to your chronic jaw tension, what are you biting back? If you could speak one sentence right now without consequences, what would it be? And you must be prepared for the answer. It will be ugly. It will be socially unacceptable. It will say things like, I hate my mother, or I want to abandon my children for a weekend, or I am deeply, profoundly bored with my entire existence. These are not calls to action. These are truths demanding acknowledgement. The shadow doesn't necessarily need to act, it needs to be seen. Once it's seen, the muscle often releases, because the muscle was recruited purely to keep the truth invisible. But here lies the great obstacle, the ego's resistance. I want to warn you about this. When you begin this work, the pain might actually get worse initially. This is called the Jungian amplification of the symptom. The body senses that a listening ear has arrived, and it starts to scream louder, like an abandoned child finally seeing its parent walk through the door. It dumps every backlogged signal at once. Most people panic at this stage and go back to the muscle relaxants. Don't. Stay at the door. Ask the second question. What do you need? Not what do you need me to literally do, but what quality do you represent that my life is missing? Is the shoulder pain asking for the right to put things down? Is the chronic exhaustion asking for the right to stop being productive and just exist? The shadow's needs are always symbolic, always deeply human, and always the polar opposite of the rigid persona you've constructed. Phase 5. When the fortress becomes a home, we now arrive at the final transformation, what integration actually feels like in the flesh. When the body and the psyche finally align, when the conscious mind and the unconscious soma speak the same language, it's not merely the absence of pain. It's a positive state of presence. I call this somatic coherence. It's a state where your yes feels light in your chest and your no feels clean in your gut. You don't need to think about decisions. The body casts the vote instantly. The energy that was trapped maintaining the armor, and this is a vast, incredible amount of energy. The psychic equivalent of keeping a rocket engine strapped down is released back into the system. What does this energy become? It becomes vitality, creativity, libido in the Jungian sense, not just sexual drive, but the raw life force, the land vital. People who resolve deep somatic armors often describe a sensation of melting, of flow, a feeling of being finally at home in their own skin. Jung called this journey individuation, the integration of the whole self, and I believe that individuation is not an abstract spiritual achievement. It's a physical event. It's the softening of the diaphragm. It's the return of peristalsis, the natural rhythmic movement of the gut. It's the ability to take a breath that reaches the bottom of the pelvis. True authenticity, then, is not a set of behaviors or a style of clothing. It's a biological condition. It's the condition where the signaling system of the body, the somatic markers, are aligned with the spoken reality. A person who has integrated their shadow does not have to act authentic. Their shoulders are back not because they're trying to project confidence, but because they have literally nothing weighing them down. Their jaw is loose because they speak their truth in real time, and therefore there is no backlog of unsaid words fermenting into tension. They don't get mystery illnesses because there is no mystery. Their body and their biography are a single coherent document. Imagine waking up without that knot of dread. Imagine a stressful event occurring and your body feeling an initial jolt of alarm. Yes, but then, once the event passes, the alarm actually resets to zero. This is the hallmark of health. The chronic tension we normalize is actually a trauma loop replaying. The tragedy is that we've forgotten what zero feels like. We think that a constant baseline of 4 out of 10 anxiety is just being an adult. It's not. It's the hum of the prison generator. The body's final goal is not to scream forever. It wants to go silent. It wants to return to its default state, which is not vigilance, but presence. And it will go silent the moment you honor the message. The rebellion ends when the exile is welcomed home, when the shadow's unlived life is given a seat at the table, and when the person you present to the world finally matches the person trembling in the dark. So, as we close, I leave you not with a motivational quote, but with a practical and profound inquiry. Somewhere in your body right now there is a held breath, a micro-tension, a flutter of discomfort that you've been ignoring for so long it's become background noise. That is not a mechanical flaw. That is a question you've never answered. Go find it, ask it what it wants, and be prepared.